What's up, everyone? Today we have a little bit of a different project. I just got done with a fairly large one and picked up another one, but we have a bike. I'm not a fan of bikes. I rode when I was a kid, didn't like when I was a kid, and that feeling has not changed a lot since I became an adult. Motorcycles, a completely different story. But bikes, not so much. But to fit into our theme of small engines, the owner of said bike installed a small engine on it. There are 2-cycle kits and 4-cycle. Might be a little larger. I'm assuming it'd be larger. I don't know, I never actually saw one. But that you can buy to kind of, turn your bicycle into something a little easier to pedal. And this is what happened. Well, the problem is the kit that came with it, I don't think was very detailed. I looked at the instructions, and it's a very generic kit, and it's one that fits a variety of bikes, and I think this one might be a tad on the small end. So my job is to make sure that it's safe and that it's running. I have no idea what's going on with some of these cables. I don't even know what cable that is. I'm assuming it's a brake, maybe throttle. I don't know. We're gonna look at that. And then from there, we want, like I said, make sure it's okay, drive, and then we'll turn on the engine. See what's going on. I think the kill might have a little bit of a problem here, but may or may not be as much of a problem as I think it is. But the main thing is just to make sure it's safe. So I think the first thing I want to do is look at the brakes. I don't really see anything wrong with the front brake. I don't really like where the handle is, but the front brake itself is working how I would say it should be. Rear brake, though, it's very squishy. And when looking at it, it's not even connected. The cable is loose. So we have problem number one. Usually this has a little hole in it. It does. So the brake cable should just fit over or through that hole, and then when you crimp it down, just kind of presses it together and holds it. I need to find a nut that's going to fit that because it's missing it, and then we will properly adjust it. Okay, I got it all done. When you put enough tension on it, you don't want it to slide out. You also want these to be pretty close to the actual surface. You don't want to have a great distance of travel. So they're both pretty close, and when you pull on it, cable is not moving. This is closing to pretty much the exact amount, so I think we're pretty good there. I think now I found out one side is a clutch and one side is the brake, so we're gonna look at the motor and see what's going on there. I took the 2 side covers off because I want access to this nut to help me turn the engine over. I removed the chain because if this doesn't kill, the kill doesn't work, then I don't want to have problem where I'm having to lift up the back seat, making sure the wheel's not going, chain's going around, chain gets stuck in my pant leg, and yeah, nothing good happens from there. So remove the chain. The wiring on this, you ever know those diagrams or those movies that you see, like they missed like a page, or they stole a page for like a buried treasure or something? I think that's what the wiring diagram was on the instructions, because they literally had nothing. just said connect wiring. The problem is the kill that goes from the throttle had no wire butt connectors, so I ended up having to make a few, which are actually right there. Now basically how it ends up working is this is from what I've read, so we'll test it out right now. Blue goes to blue from the engine going over and then to your CDI, and then black goes to black, and then you have a white cable or wire. That one, from what I gathered, is like if you have a light. So for the time being, I just kind of folded it on itself, and I'll tape it up here soon. Now from the handlebars though, we have a blue and a black wire. One would think that you would just connect one of them, blue to blue and black to black to the others. However, from what I've read, is one of them has to go to the grounding source of some type, and the other one has to go to the blue wire. So that's what happened. I took the blue wire from the handlebar, connected it to the blue wire there, and the black wire, I don't know if you can quite tell, but the black wire, I found a bolt that was just chilling there, and I connected it. So technically, if we were to put the spark plug in and give it a whirl, we should see spark. So let me get my drill, and if we don't, then we have a problem. Bright white spark. Very good. Now, this part's going to be a little hard for you to see and me, but I want to see if the kill is also working. I need a magnet, so I need to kind of hold it in place. That's going to have to do for now. You probably can't see anything, but let me turn the engine over. I don't know if you're able to tell, but when I pushed the kill, it died. When I just spun it over, it was going. So we're good to go. So I think I'm going to turn the fuel on, and we'll try to get this engine running. So I was told when I got it that it had a full tank of fuel, and it does, more or less. But I don't know what that means. Was it full last year? Is it full straight fuel? You know, what constitutes a full tank of fuel? So I took off the fuel line a little bit. We're just going to pour a little in this jar. That throttle cable seems a little sketchy to me. That should be enough to at least look at it. I opened the gas tank because I want more air a little quicker. It's full of good 2-cycle fuel. Doesn't smell too bad at all. In fact, it smells very, very fresh. Okay, that's good. Maybe not. I think it should be okay. I think it's just because it's on an angle. That's probably what it is. Nothing on here is super tight because I don't know exactly what's going on. So that's the cover for the transmission, I guess, would be considered. And it's a lot easier with full range of motion. Anyway, so let's turn this on and let it fill up and see if it starts leaking. It is at an angle. I don't really like the fact that it's at an angle. Well, I guess for our purposes, however, though, it probably would be okay. So I'm going to put the plug in. We'll take a look. Unfortunately, you're probably going to get a whole lot of my side of my leg. But you could be looking at something else on me, so. Anyway, let's see where choke is. Choke is right here. Which way is choke? That is choke. Fuel line is right there next to the choke too. I don't really like that. It's not really much I could do though. So I want the wheel to turn that way. So that means I want, yeah, there we go. Give it a try. It could just be the choke on. Let's see what happens. Let me readjust my drill here a little bit. Okay. It might have been a tad too low of speed. I have no idea what the needles are set to. So the engine runs, so we got that done. It's actually the next day. I had to take care of a future project, but with a new day, it's a new problem. But we're almost done. This is the intake for the carb. Now this carb, like I said, this bike is a little big or small for this engine, at least what it's meant to be. So the carb is real cramped in there, and you can move the engine a little bit, but then it's kind of annoying. Like you need to add like a link, but then it's at a really bad angle, and then the exhaust doesn't start fitting, so it's pretty much where it needs to be. Having said that, this is exactly 3/4 inches. That slips in there. You tighten, and then it just puts pressure on there, and there's a O-ring inside. Well, my idea is I have a piece of a 1/4 or 3/16 or something inch flat pieces around here somewhere that's more than large enough to cut out cut this out, drill some holes and whatnot. But more or less, I need to shorten this And my original idea was to cut this section out and then weld it, but this is cast aluminum. Don't really want to do that. I did find this 3/4 inch pipe from a previous project, so I'm going to see if that is a possibility. Let's see here. I think this originally came in 4 feet, but I have like 3 feet left over. I think with a little bit of grinding on the side just to thin it out, it'll be fine. But it's the only thing I could find. And I know my local hardware store will have some, but I don't really want to do that. So I think I'm going to do this. Take this pipe. We need to find out the length of this and then go even shorter. So I'm thinking it only has to be like 1 inch. But we also need to angle it up. This section is going to be the same length no matter what. And then I'm thinking maybe like another inch, but cut like slots in it to then be able to bend it, because it's really hard to bend at such a tight radius for this size of a pipe without cutting slots. So cut slots, bend it a little bit, because at the same time the clutch shifter is going to be touching the bottom of this, so it needs to clear that. And then the idea of, well, I could put it off to the side. Well, no, because at one point you will be pedaling, so you don't want to hit it with your foot potentially, so you want to keep it facing forward as much as you can. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. And then if not, luckily we do have at least 3 feet left over. I'm trying to remember where I got this pipe. This might have been from my local hardware store. And it's 3/4. It says 48 inch, but it's only 36 inch now. 16 gauge. So it's not the thinnest, but it's also not the heaviest. So I'm gonna get that cut off and show you what I come up with. I legit have lost like 12 Sharpies, but there's a green mark there. I could barely see it, so I'm hoping you can, but I doubt you can. And the reason why it's green, so literally the only marker I have left is green. And I have no idea why. I never bought a green marker. But that mark is the mark that I need to, it's just what actually fits into the throat of the carb. So, oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm gonna cut it down, put a couple slots in it. Maybe I'll just put a couple slots in it. Now I'll try that first. That's what I came up with. Looks a lot shorter. I mean, so that's good. I think I can even shorten the intake a little bit. Don't know. I'm gonna get it welded and cleaned up. And after it's all welded, got the TIG out, because this is definitely not a MIG project, at least not for me. Got it all welded up. There's a hole or two I had to patch up. That's why I ground it down, but after looking at it now, I think we are pretty good. So I'm going to work on the base. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the piece of metal that I want to cut it out of. I think I have a piece of angle. I'm just going to cut the angle part off, because it's actually, the angle is wider than the throat of it. And cut so it's flat, mark the holes with like a Sharpie or something, try to find my black Sharpie, and then just kind of take my grinder and just grind it to the right shape. And then we'll take a let's use the, we'll have to figure out what we're going to do for the intake hole, but probably like a step drill. Yeah, probably step drill on the, my mind went blank, but the drill press, there we go. And that should be pretty good. other than that, I think we are pretty much done with the intake, so I'm going to go ahead, get that done. That's just a whole lot of me running back and forth and swearing because I cut it too short, so I'm just going to cut that one short, and then we'll bring you back once it's all done. Okay, so I got this cut out, and I just took the gasket, and for the center hole, I marked the center, and the gasket, the intake port is actually not circle, it's more of a square oval, if that makes any sense. But I don't really have a way to make that exactly. Is it really going to cause that big of a problem? No, I don't think so, because even the nothing on the original piece was very flow and oriented. There's a big old casting mark in the center, and I feel like if anything this is going to help, and we're shortening it. But anyway, so these are two different thicknesses of metal, but I'm going to just weld it on. Probably would help if I show you, huh? Gonna weld it on like so, probably put a tack or two and get it cleaned up, then painted, and then we'll be ready to install. Okay, and here we have it, our shortened intake. So while I put these tools away, I want to kind of put these together so you can see the difference in them. The paint is still a little wet, so I don't want to touch it, but as you can tell, there's definitely a difference. By the way, that angle that was there, that was the one I was going to use, but I decided that was just going to be a whole lot more cutting, and it's a whole lot thicker too, so there's no point of putting like 1/8 inch plate on something that's maybe a whatever 16 gauge is. What my mind went blank, but anyway, so no point to doing that. Now I kind of want to go over a little bit more on this performance hindrance or addition, or is this going to be bad for it? Is it going to be good? You know, what are we expecting out of this? When I looked at the original one, it wasn't bad. I mean, like I said, it could be cleaned out a little bit. It could have been a little better made, but all in all, it wasn't horrible. I think this is actually going to be an improvement, but when you do pie cuts, in order for me to bend it at such a small amount, you could potentially narrow the pipe a little bit. I don't think that I really did. When looking down the throat of it, it appears to be roughly the same, and I didn't weld on the inside of it because I was worried that the buildup of weld would actually make the intake smaller. So it's only on the outside, but at the same time, it's not like this is going to be holding anything super strong. I mean, that's pretty much in there. I have no concerns that it's going to break, but, and considering the fact that we're substantially closer, I think we're pretty okay. The last step is I'm going to take a Dremel. I'm going to take a wire brush on said Dremel. I'm going to take it all the way through because I want to make sure there's nothing inside there. No burrs, nothing really, because anything that's in there over the course of time, fuel's going to be splashing around it and air is going to be moving around it. So I don't want anything to happen to it. So I have this wire brush. Just going to take it and shove it through there. I think this is mostly dry. Yeah, it looks like it. Maybe a smaller brush. I don't know if I can fit that all the way in there, but we'll try. And we'll give it a good cleaning. I had originally wanted to go get because I have sheets of aluminum. Well, I shouldn't say sheets, squares of aluminum left over from a different project. And I want to say, well, the other one was aluminum. I want to say that would have been probably a little bit longer lasting, because aluminum doesn't rust, you know. So I was a little bummed out that I didn't have any of those, but at the same time it's like, do I really want to weld aluminum like that right now? Not really. And I painted it. There shouldn't be any water on the inside. That's really the only part that would be of concern to me. So I'm pretty much okay with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that cleaned up, installed, and we'll give the engine a pull. Something I completely spaced to really explain is when you're doing this, you should definitely be checking often. There's a gasket in there. If the spacing that you're allowing yourself is correct, or the size is correct, pretty much anything is correct. The last thing you want to do is get all this work done and have it be wrong. Now, because of the throttle cable, as much as I tried, it's really not a good way of keeping it straight, but a little bit of an angle is not gonna kill it. So, you know, pick your battles. That's how I see it. Oh, one other thing too. When I was going through it with the Dremel, I also took a small file and I filed. Why is this one a little difficult? I filed off one or two little weld spots in the center that weren't bad. They were just a tad higher than I would have liked. So keep that in mind when you are doing yours. And when you do file, make sure you blow it out very good. I actually took a paper towel that was wet and wiped it out, both sides of the port, or both sides of the pipe, just to make sure. Okay, so one thing I did not mention is I also had adjusted the carb a little bit. I changed the pin or the clip on the throttle because it seemed like it was running a little rich. So that's why I have this here. Basically, this comes out and you can see there's a little clip in there. I just changed it. There's 5 settings on there. I changed it to the middle one. It was, I believe, all the way rich. So it was all the way down. So on the needle, the little ridges, down gets richer, higher gets leaner. So basically the needle goes further into the carb. So if your clip is lower on there, this pin actually goes a little higher and allows more fuel. So if you're having a rich condition, you want to actually lower the needle. That's what I did. I lowered it. That's not too hard to do. I mean, you can easily do that. It's something you probably will have to do anyway if you use this throughout the course of the year, because winter tuning is a little bit different than summer. I mean, you don't have to. It probably would run just fine, but I would prefer to do that just to make sure that it's running appropriately, because winter is a little different. So for whatever reason, it's wanting to flood over. I took the carb apart, actually found this inside, and took that out. I was hoping that was it, but now it's still leaking. Something wrong with the needle on the seat. But it is full, so I at least want to see if it will run. Because I want to make sure there's no vacuum leaks or anything. Is that choke? That is choke. Well, with it flooded, it probably wouldn't even need choke. Yeah, that should work just fine. So actually started a lot easier than I thought, but like I said, it was flooded. So I'm going to take apart the carb and see what exactly is going on there. And I think I'm about done. Just need to put the chain on. Because let's think about this real quick. We have spark, kills, brakes. So all the safety stuff is there. So if anything were to go south fast, kill the engine, stop, slam on the brakes. Both brakes are working. That's the clutch. Front brakes, nice and good. Back brakes, nice and good. Both brakes, nice and good. Kill, we know works. I think we're pretty much set. Just need to fix this leaking problem we have, put it together, and call it a win. Okay, so got everything put back. Everything is in a rightful spot. Cables are tight. Zip tied a few things to kind of keep the management of it a little easier. Fuel clips are on. Everything appears to be fine. Kill works, brake works, clutch works. Took it for a brief ride around the neighborhood and I have no issue. It is kind of a jolt when you first put it on. Like, so you're technically supposed to be riding your bike at a fairly decent speed, I think. Not 100% sure. I'm not a biker. I'm just tightening the kickstand because that kickstand was way loose. But, and then when you release the clutch, it engages the engine, and then your movement is supposed to turn the engine over, get it going, and then at that point, once it is going, you're set. There's no more. You are running. You could potentially just stop pedaling and be good. I think. Well, that's what I did, at least. I'm assuming you're supposed to stop pedaling. But anyway, with that being said, yeah, everything seems like it's fine. No problems, just a little bit of a jolt, but then so you get used to it, I'm sure, over time. But I think that's about it. Okay, well, it's a little bit different, but it is a small engine. So hopefully you liked what you saw. Definitely like and subscribe. Put a thumbs up, that helps me a lot. And I'll catch you on the next video. Have a good night.